Okay, recording. Okay, we are doing Mishlei 12:16. This one is more in the accessible range, I think. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. It's not quite in the obvious range, but it's in the accessible range. Let's see what happens. Okay, Avil bayom yivada ka'aso v'chose kalon arum. Who wants to try translating?
Yeah, good. An Avil will show his anger.
Okay, good. Yeah,
that,
nice. You got to show. Yeah, okay. So Avil is we'll just translate as Mishlei fool because that's going to be part of the question. Yeah, bayom.
On that day.
Okay, will show, literally make known, right? But show is good. His anger on that day. The chose kalon arum.
And an arum.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is close to the cover?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know what colon is.
Anyone know what colon is? Nope. So colon, no, it's not anger. So I would translate it as shame or disgrace. Let's just see what the BDB translates it as. Where are we here? 16. Colon, they translate it as ignominy. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Dishonor. Yeah, dishonor, disgrace. I think disgrace is probably good. Will, or I guess covers his disgrace. Okay. So that's the pasuk. Fairly straightforward, syntactically at least. Okay, Sadigon says kaaso. So he translates. This is a weird one. Translates kaaso as aveluso, his foolishness. Okay, which is strange because kas is usually like anger. So Kafach explains tirgum kas avelus kfiha inyan. So he is translating kas as foolishness based on the context. Uvetesha tsuros tirgum rubino kas sukartim befirish rubino. Okay, fine. So he says this is not the only time he does this. Okay, fine. So I think let's just go with anger. I think that's probably the best. Targum translates as shatia kad yome moda rugze v'arim machase tsa'are. So he translates colon disgrace as pain. Okay, so we'll add that there, even though that's not really not pshat. Okay, our scroll says the foolish one's anger will become known on that very day. Okay, I think that actually probably is a more grammatically correct translation. Yivada is it will become known. Okay, so I'm just going to reword this here. I mean, I think it does. It's not like Ariel's translation is wrong, but just more grammatically correct here. So the anger of a fool will be made known on that day. Okay, so of an avil, I'm just gonna substitute this Mishleic fool will be made known on that day, but an arum covers his disgrace. Okay, and our score says, but a clever man conceals his shame. Yeah, clever to me is I know sometimes we can translate arum as clever, but I think cunning captures it better because cunning has to do with implies clever is too easy to translate as like purely like cognitive. So I don't like clever. Okay, Living Nach says the anger of a fool becomes known on the day, but a clever man conceals his shame. Alter says the anger of a dolt becomes known in a trice. That seems like an archaic phrase. What is a trice? Trice. In a moment. Okay, so he's learning it as like quickly. Okay, that's already an interpretation. But the shrewd man conceals his disgrace. Okay, shrewd is another term for like clever or cunning. Okay, so straightforward, fairly straightforward pasuk. What are the questions? Yeah, Tamar.
I don't know if this is, I guess not the most, oh, 1 second, sorry. Okay, yeah. Maybe not the most basic question, but what kind of a room is this? Like, is this supposed to be a good thing?
Yeah, okay, so, okay, right. So what is the definition of a room in this context? Okay. And can you just, I sense that you're asking a more specific question than that. Can you just?
Yeah, I'm asking a more specific question. I guess I was a little bit thinking of the Mishlei spectrum, but even just on the pasuk in itself, like, is the second half a positive, like a good opposite to the first half? Like, it's not clear to me that it's a good thing.
All right, so let's ask that as a separate question, which is, how are these two halves opposites? And then is the second half good, or is it also bad? Okay, that's a good question. Isaiah?
I had a pretty similar question actually, which is like, what does a good person do? Because I was assuming that
Okay.
Rome is the bad person.
Yeah. Okay. You know what I'm going to do, just in case, because a lot of you were in the Mishlei Shiur. Oh, you know what? Let me actually just pull up the. A lot of you were in the Mishlei Shiur that I gave on Sunday. Why is it not showing the most recent one? Okay, give me 1 second. Oh. Being. Hold on just a second here. Oh, there we go. I just want to pull up the thing that both you and Tamara are referencing. So the Mishleic spectrum, right? So this is the model that Rabbi Moskowitz and I came up with about the various relationship between the various archetypes in Mishlei, and the only one of these that appears in two places on the spectrum, again, on the right half of the spectrum is the positive development in Mishlei. The more right you go, then the better you are. And then the left is the negative development. So you see here that Arum is to the right of center, and he's also to the left of center. So the Arum can be in two places. And I know that I talked about this on Sunday. So you're gonna have to erase that from your memories. Okay. Hopefully you don't remember what I said, because we're gonna have to. I want to approach it as fresh as we can. Okay. So the background of Tamara and Isaiah's question here is is Arum being used here in the positive sense as it is often used in Mishlei, or is used in the negative sense like the Nachash in Bereshis is clearly, that's not a good type of Arum. Okay. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, how will they show their anger or hide their disgrace?
Okay, so how is the Avil's anger made known? And then how does the Arum conceal, cover his disgrace? Yeah, Rivki.
Are we implying the on that day to the second half as well, or is there a time like
Good
that?
question.
Yeah, what is that doing there?
Okay, yeah. So let's ask that in two questions. Let's say what is meant by on that day? Okay, and then is this meant to be transposed to the second half? Oh, we got Yosef today. Nice. Of the pasuk as well. Okay, yeah. And Ricky, you have something else to add? Yeah.
Now I have another question, which is covering the disgrace, is that a positive thing or a negative? I'm not sure if we asked this, but what is it? Does it have like a character trait associated with it?
Of covering disgrace, you said?
I'm assuming that the anger of the Avil being known is a negative, but what's the second half? Is it positive or negative?
The second half of the pasuk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's that is what is being asked by Tamara and Isaiah here. Is the second half good, or is it also bad, like the first? Okay, Ariel.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask what's the subject of the pasuk here?
Okay, that is a good question. What is the subject of the pasuk? Again, I'll say Rabbi Moskowitz is a subject spiel here. Is that Rabbi Moskowitz was of the opinion that you should ask this question automatically every time, because if you don't have a clear idea of what the subject is, then you can't have a clear idea of what the you can't have a clear interpretation of the pasuk. And I felt like many times we would like artificially ask the question, what is the subject? I didn't feel we were getting clarity. This case, I agree with you. We need to ask what the subject is. Yeah, Yosef.
Why would he be angry? Or
okay, yeah. So let's ask this general question here, which is
what's the
to think
case?
what's the case? Yeah, that's how I was going to ask it. That's good. So what is the scenario here which results in the Avil's anger and the Arum's disgrace, which needs to be covered, which he covers, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, and we might need to answer why he's angry in terms of internally, but definitely we need to understand externally, like what the scenario is. Yeah, Isaiah?
Okay, I had a similar question, which it's like, is the pasuk like assuming the Avil is angry, or is that like a defining trait to an Avil?
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm going to actually, let's see here. I'm going to actually kind of take that question and combine it with some of what Yosef was saying, which is what is this pasuk teaching us about the relationship between the Avil nature and his anger. Okay, and you see that Sadigon holds that this is definitely the case because Sadigon translated the word kas as avilus, as foolishness. So he holds that there's some huge relationship there. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, I guess like what, maybe two questions, but like what does he cover his disgrace with?
Okay, I think that's
Is that covered?
I think in your first question, how does he cover his disgrace?
Okay, fine. Fine. My other question is why what's unique about these two characters in Mishlei such that it's the pasuk is limiting it to these specific characters?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to put this over here as well, which is what actually you want say what is the subject of the pasuk such that Mishlei is contrasting the Avil with the Arum. Yeah, Isaiah.
Okay, two questions. So first one, who is the Avil's anger being made known to?
Okay, good question.
Yeah,
To
that's the
whom
first
is the
question.
Avil's anger being made known? Okay, good.
And then the second question is, what or is the Arum also, does he also have anger? Does he not get
Okay.
does he not get angry? Is that like a part of
Okay,
his
that's a good
archetype?
question
Like,
also.
yeah.
Okay, so does the Arum experience anger? If so, how is it similar to or different from the Avils? Yeah, Tamar?
I was gonna ask a similar question, which was just like, what's the relationship between the anger and the disgrace?
Okay, yeah. Let's see. Does that fit into any of our other questions? No. Okay, so let's say, what is the relationship between the anger of the Avil and the disgrace of the Arum? Yeah, Rifki?
Yeah, very basic question. Are we assuming that they're in like the same context and like position?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that that is the case, that we're talking about one scenario where like the same thing happens to both of them, and then this is how the Avil deals with it, and this is how the Arum deals with it, because that's our working assumption for Mishlei contrasting the two. Yeah, Ariel?
Who's the audience of this pasuk?
Yeah, who is the audience of this pasuk? Good question. Okay, we did not ask what is the definition of an Avil, so we'll do that now. What is the definition of an Avil in this context? Did we ask why he is, I guess the question is, yeah, why is he making his anger known, right? Or why does his anger become known? And I guess like that's kind of I don't know if we can even say that that's the case, but like I don't know if he does it intentionally or if it just like comes out. I'm trying to think of a way to ask this, which is neutral on that stance.
I think I'm able to ask it in the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because it's possible. Maybe it is it that the anger is stemming from the nature of the Avil versus he's actively trying to make people view his anger? Is that
okay? Yeah. So I'm gonna tag that onto the your original question. How is the Avil's anger made known? Is it made known intentionally or unintentionally?
Was that what you were asking though? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Kiva.
This might be the same as number 7,
Yeah.
but why is he in a room for covering his disgrace?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question also. Yeah, that's a good parallel to the what is the relationship between, where did I put it?
I mean, I guess that's similar to like, is it a good thing or bad thing? But
Yeah, no, I like that because where oh yeah, what is this pasuk teaching us about the relation between the reveals nature and his anger? And then similarly, what is this pasuk teaching us about the relationship between the arum nature and his did you say his disgrace or is covering his disgrace? I forgot how you said it.
I was saying, why is he cunning for covering his disgrace?
Yeah, right. And his covering his disgrace. Yeah. Like, why does this make him cunning? Or how is this a sign of his cunning? Yeah. Okay. That feels like it's it. Oh, I guess another question is, so what? Right? So what? Okay, what is the practical application, right? Who cares if the Avil's anger is made known or the Arum's disgrace is not concealed? Yeah. Okay, so let me copy and paste these questions into the chat, and then we will have our thinking minute. Let's see, I bet we can get 9. Oh, 10. All right, we'll see if we can get 10. All right, so here are the questions. Ruth, you have another question? You have is this already an idea?
I just have a methodology question.
Sure.
This reminds me of a pasuk that we learned in high school, and I'm wondering.
Oh,
Yeah, but I'm obviously like my brain is just naturally going to that, but
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time trying to divert it. So do you have any?
Okay, so here's what I would do is I would look at the list of questions and hyper focus on the questions that idea is not answering. Okay, that's one strategy. Another strategy is, I mean, this is the more advanced strategy, but like push it out of your mind, you know, of like really like try to imagine that you're learning this from scratch and try to see it with fresh eyes, you know. But that's sometimes very hard when the idea is very powerful. Oh, you know what? And I'm gonna ask you to not tell me which pasuk it is, because I'm not thinking of any idea that we learned in high school that you know, that has this, and I don't want to be infected. Yeah.
Basically, no cheating, Rifki. No cheating.
The other, you look, and if you can't resist the urge to like have that idea, then go into it and get that idea really, really clear. And then sometimes what I'll do is either, you know, one of two things: either that idea will be like related to the main idea of this pasuk, and then it'll set you up to like see the differences, or it will totally not be related, and you'll be able to see, oh, I'm just totally projecting that idea because it says the word arum or something like that, you know? Yeah. Okay. Let us take our minute to think, and then as usual, we will take full baked ideas first, and then partially baked ideas. And just as a tip, by the way, since okay, let's just talk about another methodology tip here, right? So, you know, if you have an idea of if you have an idea already of an avil and an arum, so then you're going to be in a similar situation as Rifki in that, like, it's going to be hard for you to not plug that definition in. So try to be open to like seeing what this pasuk is saying about an avil and arum, you know, like try to extrapolate it from the new information that the pasuk is giving you. And if you can't, then plug it in, but then try to get the nuance of what the pasuk is like the new angle that it's showing. Okay, so hard to do. Okay, let's take a minute.
But you're basically saying we shouldn't define it as we already know it.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a question in general, right? Is that when you're going through Mishlei, I mean, Rabbi Moskowitz always used to say, like, forget everything else, forget all the other ideas you've learned, and then just like look at the pasuk in front of you. And if that ends up contradicting an idea, then we'll work it out after we get this idea. That was his approach, very bottom up approach. And I can't disagree with that approach. But at the same time, I do think that there is a phenomenon of when you're learning through any area of Chachma, you are building a theory. And as long as you keep flexible enough to like modify your theory in light of the data, then that's like a natural way of learning. But again, I've been very surprised where like, there will be, I think we've even had this in the Monday Night Shiur where we will have had a certain definition of a certain Mishlei archetype. And because we keep an open mind, then the pasuk shatters that idea and we see like a completely new dimension than we used to think. So like, we want to allow for that to happen if that's going to happen, so like, it really is like a, I feel like there's probably a Bruce Lee quote about this, but like a holding on to it, to the ideas and the concepts you have, but without the stickiness of it. Like you should be able to like let it go and like have it be floating around there, but not dictating like your thinking and closing off avenues. Okay, now we'll take a thing a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna call on you guys, but I'm gonna ask if possible for you to lead by answering question number 2, okay, of what is the scenario here, because I think that'll help us to follow what's going on more. Okay, Isaiah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think this scenario is on a day when a person is confronted with something that they are angry about or that they have like emotional sensitivity to.
Yeah.
So the Avil, when he's confronted, the scenario, like if something brings up a scenario that he's angry about, like he reacts without thinking at all and like displays his anger in whatever way he displays it.
Yeah.
But the Arum, he knows that there are social consequences to like it's showing like a weakness or like it's showing some kind of fault that he has if other people see that he's angry, so he doesn't allow it to be known that he is angry because he's aware of that. But he's not like someone who lets go of his anger, because that would be something better than an arm or like something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear that. Okay, so so first of all, just to be clear, you're saying that the disgrace here is the fact that he's getting angry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, his harboring anger about something.
Okay, fine. So I'm gonna try to type out what I understand here, and then we'll see if we can develop it. So this is describing a situation in which the individual is angered. Okay. The Avil will are you taking a stance on whether he like makes it known intentionally or whether it's just like, he it comes out?
No, like it could be either one, I think.
Okay, fine. So he'll I think the first half needs to be worked on a little bit, or I'm missing something, but the Avil will be open about his anger, but the Arum will recognize that there are social ramifications for revealing that he's angry, and he'll conceal his anger to avoid those consequences, but he doesn't get rid of this anger. Okay, so let's before we go on, can we develop this, because I feel like we need to flesh out the first half.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Let's go Isaiah first. If you have anything else to say, then we'll go with you.
Sure. So I don't think it's just that he's open about his anger, like he's like choosing to reveal it. I think it's like that he allows it to overtake him in a way where it's obvious that he's angry about this thing.
That's
like
why kind of what I was getting at when I was
angry
saying how how much of it is intentional or not.
Right.
To overtake him to the point where where it's obvious that he's angry. Yeah, Tamar?
So I want to take a step for possibly developing this,
Sure.
which is I want to posit that the audience is people who are dealing with other angry people.
Okay, that's good.
Like sometimes you're someone you're interacting with someone and they're angry and it flashes on their face or something,
Yeah.
or they're talking to you in a tense voice, and that's some people are like that, and some people will continue to seem pleasant but really be angry, and you have to kind of navigate both kinds of
Okay,
people.
that's good. Isaiah, are you taking a stance on who the audience is?
No. I think
Okay.
it could be either that person or the person who was angry.
Okay, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
merge the ideas yet into. I was going to go team blanks, but we're not going to go
Can
there.
I also add on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what, before you add on, let me just write down what Tamar was saying. Is this pasuk is directed at the person who is faced with either an avil or an arum. Okay, it's telling them that that some people are open about their anger, and you can, I guess, note that and deal with it accordingly. But so just to ask on the second part tomorrow. So I understand the arum is going to conceal it. So if this is talking to the person who is faced with that, then what is he supposed to do?
I guess it kind of depends a lot on the situation. But for example, like if someone, I don't know, if you do something where you think that someone might get angry and they act fine, you should know that they might not be fine and that they might act in ways that express anger later.
Okay, so I think that's a good thing. So the pasuk is directed at his person. The pasuk is directed at a person who's faced with either an avil or an arum, whom you have reason to believe was angered. Okay, so if it's an arum, he'll conceal it, and you shouldn't be lured into a false sense of security, but should take precaution for how that anger might express itself later. So is there a parallel? See, like that's really good advice, but is there a parallel? Like, is the point of the pasuk just to tell you about the arum and it's using the avil as like a foil, or is there like some chiddush in the advice about how to deal with the avil who's angry? Oh, I think I have an answer to that question, but go ahead, Tamar. Do you have an answer?
I mean, on like a basic level, I think you have to be able to deal with people who might like blow up.
Yeah.
So I think that there is something there. I mean, maybe it's obvious that you have to know how to deal with that, but like that is a thing.
I think that's good. Let's see. I saw Alex and then Isaiah with the party symbol. Oh, and then yeah. After.
I was thinking it could possibly be like advice for reveals potentially. Like,
wait, I want to say you're saying it's for that I want to.
Well,
yeah, sorry. We are on tomorrow's approach, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But in terms of the avil, I think there is. It's interesting that there's nuance to be had with that. They're quick to express their anger as opposed to someone who might, sit on it first and flesh out how they're feeling before addressing like a conflict situation.
Right. Yeah. I think that's going to be a big part of perhaps both of these ideas. Yeah. Isaiah and then.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, I think that's in my approach. That's what I was viewing the audience as being, as someone who might do the avil thing, but like, or he could conceal his anger, and it's not the best thing to do,
Right.
but it's better than showing.
Okay, right. Okay, so I'm going to add that to your idea also. So if you get angry and can't overcome the anger, then at least be cunning about it and not foolish. That's like the moral of the story there. Okay, yeah, Ariel.
Okay, so I actually have thoughts that could add on to both of them.
Okay.
But I'll start with Tamar just because to answer your question of how to deal with an avil who's angry.
Yeah.
I think that the challenge with an avil getting angry is that he's not, and I am taking a stance on it being unintentional, and even within Isaiah, is that you don't really know the quality of his anger because he's just he just doesn't know how to control his anger. I mean, like he could be angry on something that he may not necessarily be angry about the next day because it's a very small thing. So you just have to learn who he is and kind of like, either take him seriously or not take him seriously, or just ignore it or just let it go. I mean, I do know that there is like an idea like that, but with an Arum, who is angry and he is controlling it, if you learn the Arum as someone who is negative, then there is also an idea of, I think I learned this somewhere, where you're angry and you seek out revenge, like intentional revenge.
Right.
That's dangerous. Also, I think that's the worst kind of anger over there. So just to add on to that, it's pretty scary if you run into someone who kind of bottles it up and like actively goes against you.
Let me help you refine the first half. Okay, so I agree that there's a lot of stuff that the Avil can do. What is the pasuk telling you that you need, assuming tomorrow's right, that this is talking to the person dealing with the Avil? What is the pasuk telling you that you need to like focus on? I think that's where we're going to find our answer. It's telling you two things about the Avil. Bayom and Yivada. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So so practically speaking, how's that going to change the way that you deal with the Avil who's angry?
Well, he's just has a bad day. Or
what we're learning though, Bayom means he's going to make it known on that day as opposed to like some other day. Right?
Yeah. So you just ask him what's wrong with him.
Okay, so yeah, let me give you an example. Okay, so this is I'm realizing this is a trick that I used to use. Okay, time to reveal high school teacher secrets, right? So I don't know, I doubt any of you who had me in high school would have known this. Maybe if there's ever a time when a kid in high school thought that I was treating them unfairly, right, or like I did something that was like unfair, so what I would do is immediately after the class was over, I would go and call the parent and leave a voicemail. Okay, because you know what they're going to do is that there are, especially, I would say that there are probably people that you can think of in each of your classes that were very like blowing things out of proportion, or actually both of you had really good classes anyway, but like, you can imagine a high school girl doing this, blowing things out of proportion, and like, oh, Rabbi Schneeweiss is so unfair, and if, first of all, most parents are predisposed to agree with their kids as opposed to with the teachers, so you have to cut them off at the pass, and we had the advantage because they don't have access to their phones until lunch or until the end of the school day, so like, you make sure to get the parent ahead of time and give the facts about what actually happened, because you know that the student is going to immediately make known their anger, and they're going to also tell it to everybody that they can, so I think if you're dealing with an Avil, like let's say, for example, like let's say you have a business and you accidentally anger a client, right, and you anger them in a way where they're really upset, so you need to do the type of damage control which is swift and which thinks, okay, who is this person going to tell it to? What medium are they going to use to communicate? And how can I do damage control given that knowledge? There are certain times when you have to like stop and plan and think about like a long, like strategize. And then there are times when, no, this guy's going to blow up if we don't do anything, if we don't do something now, So I think that's the advice that you have with the Avil. And really, these are not just to answer our question, these are not the only two examples of this. I would suggest that these are two examples of different people different personality types who react differently to their own anger, and you need to strategize accordingly. Don't just assume that everyone's going to react in the same way, or that they react to their anger the way that you react with your anger. That's a big mistake. There's probably a name for this in psychology, where like you project your coping mechanisms onto other people, and you say, oh, well, well, when this happens to me, then I deal with it this way. So that's how this person is going to do it. But no. You have to use your knowledge of Mishlei and their personality types. Okay. I think that's like a complete idea for Tamar. Isaiah also has a good idea, but I'm right now I'm in the Tamar camp. Anyone want to add to either of these ideas before we take other approaches?
Can I add on to Isaiah?
Yeah.
So for Isaiah, I was thinking that the Aram is positive. He's a someone who you can learn from by being able to if you have an individual and it's related to Tamar, meaning like if you have an reveal who can't control himself, or if he shows his anger unintentionally, the people surrounding him may not necessarily want to be around a guy like that because he's uncontrollable and
right.
he could blow up, and like you don't know who to expect today. Are you gonna expect the jolly fella type of guy? Are you gonna expect the guy who's gonna right. like blow your car up? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So, but the Aram, he is completely aware of himself and he has control over his feelings, and he's able to conceal his anger, and that can maintain his relationships with other people.
Okay, so it takes a certain amount of self-awareness and self-control to be an arum, and that will serve him in his relationships. Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, I think these are good for now. We can always add to them if need be. All right, let's go to Yosef.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is Isaiah's or not, but I think it's taking two approaches to how you react to like failure or to frustration. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's talking about Nabil is taking a more passive approach, which is that he gets fixated on the conflict.
Yeah.
Right. So it's on that day he will reveal his anger, which is that he'll be fixated on his own frustration and how and himself in that way,
right.
which is that just he's at odds with reality. Whereas the because there's what the question I'm trying to answer basically is why is the Avil in terms of in passive, right? He'll make known, right, on that day.
His
right?
anger will be made known, right?
Right. But an Arum is active, right? He covers his disgrace. So
right.
I think it's saying the two approaches to frustration is that, or I think it's really failure in this case, which is that the Avil will get frustrated with like the situation, whereas you see the Arum is already a step ahead, which is that he's looking to deal with the situation at hand, right? Mm-hmm. So if he's failing right now, I'm thinking of like a business situation, right? Like let's say you get caught in some situation where, okay, something went wrong and it's public, right? So he's not looking to like get upset at the situation. He's looking, well, how can we deal with this reputation wise? So I think it's using covers his disgrace as saying, it's saying that the reaction to failure should be dealing with the situation.
Okay. Okay, so let me write this down. I want to add something to this as well. Okay, so Yosef says
an active versus passive kind of.
This is the subject is two ways to deal with failure. The Avil takes a passive approach in which he is just focused on I'm going to use the word like venting his frustration,
right?
Which is a very I guess self-centered, you'll see where I'm going with this in a second, centered reaction. Okay, in contrast, the Arum takes an active role and deals with the which is, hold on a second, it takes an active problem-centered reaction, taking steps to minimize the consequences of this failure becoming known. So in other words, the very fact that like the Avil is just concerned with releasing his anger and just being open, or just like letting it out, not really dealing with a problem at all, and the the arum is dealing with he's trying to cover the disgrace and dealing with the actual problem. So he still might feel these negative feelings, but he's actually taking steps to address it.
Right. And I think that it's kind of keying in on like two like general Mishlei ideas, which is that like the arum is like you said, dealing with it in terms of like reality and not just in terms of the self, right? But also B, it's a question of being active versus passive, right? It's like he's just looking to like deal with the situation at hand and looking to do whatever he can do.
Yeah.
Whereas the Avil is kind of willing to like accept the situation upon him.
Right. It's funny though, when you say willing to accept the situation, the language you're using makes that sound like a praiseworthy thing.
Right. But I'm
saying like I think he's so
at odds with reality.
Yeah, he's so at odds with reality that he can't even look at the thing objectively. He's just concerned with his own emotions.
Right. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying that he's like taking himself out of the world a little bit. He's like I mean
that's what I'll say is anger takes a person out of the world, right?
I'm saying like practically though, like he's like not willing to act anymore, right?
Yeah, right. So the Avil's anger removes him from the world to the extent that he's not even dealing with a problem. You know what it kind of reminds me of? I don't know if this is I know there's different ways to learn this, depending on if you heard Ariel's speech about this at Purim, whether Achashverosh was a chacham or a fool. This kind of reminds me of what is Achashverosh's reaction when he finds out about Haman trying to kill Esther.
He's upset about it. He thought he was like he's got really angry.
Mihuzev Ezehu Asher Malal Libo Lasos Cain, right? Yeah. Anyone want to say? I can't tell which hands are being raised for this question. Just
he goes to take a walk.
Yeah, he goes to take a walk, right? So he leaves, right? And then he comes in and then he sees, Haman falling on the bed. And let me just look up the actual pasuk here. Right. So Vatomer V'yomer hamelech Achashverosh v'yomer Esther hamalcha mihu zev ezehu asher malal libo lasos Cain v'tomer Esther ish tzar v'oyev Haman hara hazeh v'Haman niv'as midfnei hamelech hamalcha v'hamelech, and you expect him to like do something, come b'chamasom mishlei hayayin el ginas habisan. He just goes and takes a walk. Now you could, again, it's machlokes whether Achashverosh was a chacham or a tipesh, right? But lashon is for the chacham. Is it chacham or
he
melech pikeach or melech tipesh?
Yeah, melech pikeach. Yeah,
right. So whether he's clever or not, but so if you took that as clever, then maybe that was a good thing that he like went out. Or it's just he's so like it's almost, I mean, I'm not saying this in diagnostic terms because I don't think it was psychotic, but it's like almost like a dissociative type thing.
I was thinking like that, like it's like an infantile like response to
exactly.
To frustration, which is just kind of going to the self, right?
Yeah,
like removing himself from the world.
Yeah. And again, and that is what happens with anger, is that it puts you into an infantile state where you are just concerned with your emotion and the stimulus that is not in line with your, anger again is when reality is not in line with your desires. And it's the painful response of reality not conforming to my desires. And when that happens, you get this tunnel vision where, for example, hypothetical example, you might fire off guns at somebody in front of an elementary school on my street, because you're so angry that you can't even think about the fact that there's like, that you're in a neighborhood and there's kids walking around. Yeah. Okay. I think that's this is good. I think there's a little bit more to say, but I think that might come out the more we talk about the Avil, but I think this is a good complete explanation for the pasuk. I think there's more to think about in terms of where is this anger coming from in the Avil. Yeah. Alex, you're going to add to that with the party?
My idea was along kind of similar lines.
Sure.
I was thinking of it being potentially about interpersonal conflict. So the Avil, he shows his anger immediately, which is bad. But I also think a room specifically covering up the emotions they're having is also negative, because then they end up just kind of holding grudges and ruminating, and that doesn't ultimately fix their problems.
Ruminating?
Yeah. And I think ultimately it comes down to the actual timing. The Avil is an Avil because they're, expressing their anger right away on the day, as opposed to waiting, thinking logically about what's going on before communicating their issues.
Right.
So
Okay,
I think
so I'm gonna just make a note of this as a possible other avenue of this, which is application to interpersonal relationships and the effects on that. Okay, let's go on to Rivki. And before you
Can
say
I add to this idea?
You want to add to this? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so adding on to what Yosef was just saying,
Yeah.
It reminds me of like when something is frustrating or failure, I guess, then there's the Avil will kind of like something went wrong, something didn't meet his expectations. He's kind of gonna like separate, like take a victim mentality and like detach from reality completely, in the sense that he's gonna deny that there is any system of reality.
Okay.
Whereas the Arum, I think is gonna, I think it's cool that he uses the word disgrace, because I think he's gonna like, his ego is not gonna let him, and because he's in a room, not gonna let him fully see reality, but at least he'll be able to like separate this little disgrace of his, and he'll be like, whatever, that was like some chance thing that guy messed me up on, but okay, it happened, let me deal with the rest of reality.
Okay, that's very good. That was the piece that I was saying was missing. Yeah, Yosef, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I was just thinking like kind of in terms of like Deos, like in terms of like how, like this is more like self-improvement one, or like your relationship with God, kind of how it will reflect on this, but just like the more like you see that, like the idea that the more you are involved in Torah and like the like more perfected you become, the less like anger affects you, right? So I think that's saying exactly like we're saying right now, which is that when you view things in more objective terms, right, the anger doesn't affect you as much because you're not fixated on like the self as much, whereas you're just fixated on dealing with the problem that's at hand.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think that's proof to this idea, like just from a different area, but just in general,
Okay. Yeah. So I will add to that as well. So the Arum, I'm just going to do finish Ayala's. So the Arum might still have a sore ego, but he's at least able to detach from this and see it from some outside perspective, which allows him to relate to it practically, right, on a minimal level. And then what Yosef is saying is that, like, the more in line with reality, the more chachma you how would I say this? The more you live your life based on chachma, the more you're going to recognize the fact that you are completely subject to external reality, and it's going to be harder for you to have anger, which is a denial of that. Okay, Rivki, before you say your idea, Rivki, I want to try now guessing the two psukim in Mishlei. I have two possibilities of the ones in high school that we did. What do you think of the bear pasuk?
No, I don't know if did we do a bear pasuk?
Okay, I think we did. And then the other one was there was another one that had to do with like being silent or like being vocal when someone upsets you.
It was the one, should I tell you?
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
It was the one with the hot coals.
Oh, hot coals. Okay, yeah, that's a classic. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think
okay.
Okay, so in terms of what I was thinking, I can't even tell like where this might fit in.
That's fine.
But I was thinking that this is really taking an approach to anger, like not even necessarily like focusing on like the characters, but really like what anger does to a person. And I was thinking that neither of them are on the highest level, because obviously we know that like the Chacham or the Tzaddik would have better reactions to this. And I was comparing this to the other pasuk, which says basically that like that, I don't remember what the characters were, maybe it was a Chacham, that he like doesn't get angry right away, because first of all, it makes the other person angry because they're not getting angry, but also then you can think about it and you can plan for what you want to do in the future. But I was thinking that these two people aren't doing either of those things. So with the Avil, I think that I would say basically what everyone else is saying. I don't really have anything like so new to add to that. That he's just reacting to his emotions. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add.
Okay.
But then I think that maybe a chiddush is what I'm thinking with the room. Can you hear me? The sync.
Yeah, I can hear you.
But yeah, so with a room that it's specifically kind of similar to what Ayala was saying, it doesn't use the word anger. And I think that it's showing a development in him that he isn't letting it get to him in a way that he's getting angry. So not only is he not getting angry on that day and that it's known, but he's worked himself up to a point that his character understands that the other person is angry for X, Y, and Z reason. And it's not like a personal attack, even though it feels like a personal attack.
Okay. So I like the move you're making. I thought you were going to go in a different direction. So let me just say what the idea that I had based on what you're pointing out, and then we'll work with both. So I thought you were going to say he's not. It doesn't use the word anger because he's not angry, but he recognizes that anger indicates an expectation that reality conform to my desires, and that's disgraceful. Like that is an objective disgrace. And he realizes that like that is not something to be proud of. And the Avil is completely in the grips of it. The Avil will go around telling everyone how angry he is about the fact that so-and-so upset him and so-and-so said something, so it's like, it really is like, there's this thing that the Rambam says about who's he? Where did I read this recently? Okay, I'm gonna ask a question that's gonna sound really bizarre. Does anyone, any of the women who go to my women's shiur who are present here, recall something from this year where the Rambam compared something to like defecating in public? There's some midah that he compared. What was it? I can't remember what it was, but he was trying to give this example of something that like, if a person is doing that, like, that they're so far removed from like viewing this as a shameful thing, like any normal person would refrain from doing that in public, but there are people who proudly do this in public. And again, I can't remember what he was talking about. That's how this Avil is dealing with it. Like if anyone who has a philosophical understanding of anger, that anger is me basically being a baby and saying that reality didn't go in line with my desires, and instead of looking inward, I'm going to like rage at reality. That's actually an open pasuk that says Avil. Oops, hold on a second. There's a pasuk in Mishlei, I think, that says, Rambam quotes this in the Prokim about Eov. Ivelas Adam to Salaf Darko, the Al Adoshem Yizaf Libo. The foolishness of man corrupts his way, but his heart rages at Hashem. So like really, it's Hashem's will is reality, and like you have to conform to it or suffer the consequences. But the Avil will like blame reality, and to anyone who has any like inkling of what anger is, that's just such a childish emotion. So okay, I get that you're angry, but why are you broadcasting it? And that's how the Arun looks at it, is he has the anger, but he's ashamed of it, and so he's going because he realizes how out of reality it is, and he's not advanced to the point where he is past it. He's still feeling it, but he recognizes it as a shameful thing that has to be covered. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna tack that on to this cluster over here. Now, Ricky, if you were saying an additional idea beyond that, I just picked up on that from when you were saying that it doesn't use the word anger in the second half. But if you had another idea, then I can try to capture that. I just got carried away in my own.
Yeah. No, I think that was basically what I was trying to say. That it just like I was getting the whole chiddush from the fact that it doesn't use the word kas.
Yeah. Okay. Because unlike the Avil, so it doesn't use the word anger in the second half, because unlike the Avil, who is having an infantile relationship reaction and not even realizing it, infantile reaction and broadcasting it to everyone shamelessly, the Arum recognizes the Arum may not be able to get over his anger, but he recognizes that it's an imperfection and is ashamed enough of it that he will try to conceal it. So that's a virtuous thing. Yeah. And this is a good example, by the way, of how we were asking, is the second half good or bad? It's good, but good doesn't have to be tzaddik. I think we've had a lot of psukim where it is like, fool and Russia and tzaddik or fool and chacham. This is good. It's the opposite of the subject matter, but it's not the total perfection. Those are different psukim. Yeah.
Also, something I just wanted to add, which is that I think another reason why it's a benefit for the Arum, even though it's not the highest level of perfection, is because by not broadcasting it, he isn't even going to make himself more angry, because the appeal is going to keep getting angry, because hopefully people will be like, why are you angry? Like, hopefully he's not in society or in a group that they're like justifying his anger, or at least like that would be in a negative thing, unless you're doing it to be like given to Hochacha later. But Avil is just going to keep getting angrier and angrier because he isn't living in reality, and people are obviously going to remind him that he's not living in reality.
Right.
And our room, by not doing exactly what the Avil is doing, is going to eventually be able to get over it through not broadcasting it.
Right. So in that sense, it's very similar to the two identical psukim in Mishlei in 18:8 and then 26:22 about complaining. The words of a complainer are like physical blows, and they descend down to the kishkas, and we said there that like when you complain, it's the same thing. Complaining stems from this anger of reality not being aligned with your desires. So, but by vocalizing it, and especially by telling other people, you're basically anchoring yourself to the victim mentality. You're trying to get validation, and validation harms you, because when people say, oh yeah, that shouldn't have happened, they're just like making you feel that you're the one who's justified in your desires, even though reality is what it was, so it's just going to keep you in a state of anger, and it's going to compound things. Okay.
Can I add on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just a couple of
and
things.
After, yeah.
Yeah, I'll start up with yesterday with Ben Aronson's video.
Yeah, I was thinking about that also.
Yeah, about like where someone bothered him or whatever it was. He wanted to tell everyone, and like he spoke to Rabbi Moskowitz about it, and he's like, and he showed him rationally, well, why don't you just punch the guy, but he should, but like, and on that, like I was also thinking about like, it's this quality of an avil where he just starts complaining about it. Like he's not making that into reality. He's like kind of like bringing it into the world, and that kind of like taints, his surroundings as well.
Yeah. He's getting everyone to like just reflect back to his own emotions, which are distorted to begin with, and that's just going to keep that
and just another thing I wanted to mention. I don't know how this fits in at all, but right before Mishlei, I was learning with Rabbi Cinnamon, and we did this Gemara that says Shlosha Kadosh Baruch Hu Oheven Misha Inu Koes, Misha Inu Mishtaker, Misha Inu Mamin Al Midosav.
Oh,
it's just very interesting.
Yeah, God loves someone who doesn't get angry. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, God is going to be close to someone who doesn't engage in this mentality that takes you out of reality.
Yeah,
which is also drunkenness. Right?
Yeah, also drunkenness. So I'm just wondering. I don't know, but whatever. I'll say it later. But
okay, all right. That's a good idea though. Yeah, Ayala.
Okay, it's possible Ariel answered this, or that this is outside the scope of Mishlei because it doesn't talk to the avil.
Yeah.
But let's say you're facing someone or encounter someone in either of these two categories. Based on what we said, how would you help them? Good
question. Yeah, my intuition right now is saying that this pasuk is not dealing with that, and I also don't want to get too far into that before we explore the main ideas of the pasuk. Let's table that for now, and if we have time after, then we'll talk about it. Okay, Akiva.
Okay, I think the pasuk can be talking to all people in this scenario. Okay. So I definitely think from the descriptions you can take away those types of people and like the different levels that everybody's saying. But I think the focus is on you, I guess, or the person interacting with them.
Okay.
But I think a step further than Tamar was saying, I think this is more just because of the way it's describing it and how it's not saying like this person's a tzaddik. They're both people who can't control their anger.
Yeah.
I think it's telling you even before you get in the scenario how to, obviously the guy who just lets his anger go is a fool, and you're gonna have an obvious something telling you that you've angered this person.
Yeah.
Because of the reaction, but you can't carry yourself based on other people's reactions. And you can't be like, well, I think that interaction was good because the person didn't get angry, which is why it's pointing out the room. And I guess it would be telling you that basically you have to, when interacting with anybody, you have to have in mind that there's people who are like that room who, because I don't think it's going to be that the person's going to come later on a different day and, you know, the anger is going to affect you in some way. It's just that you'll never know if you angered the person. So you can't basically say, oh, my actions were positive because the guy didn't get angry. You have to understand that someone could have been angry, you just don't know. And therefore have to, you know, take caution to avoid that possibility.
Okay, so I think it would help me to understand your idea if we just talked a little bit more about the practicality. So it's talking to the person dealing with these people, and it's talking about them before the situation, you're saying. So can you just tell me again, what is Mishlei then telling you, what advice is it giving you practically?
I guess mostly based on the room, because again, it's not describing it's tzaddik, and it's saying that you don't know if you've angered a person like this, because some people are on a level where they can control showing their anger,
right? But
you've angered the person, which you would want to try to avoid doing. So if you have the understanding that there are people who, meaning just because they didn't react doesn't mean you didn't make them angry, and doesn't mean they're a tzaddik.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So let me just try typing this out, and you tell me if this is what you're saying. So Akiva is saying that that because there are arumim who will not show signs of their anger, you can't use their reaction as a gauge of whether you said or did the right thing. So the implication is rather you need to form your own opinion about your action, whether it was right or wrong. And if it was wrong, you need to, like, you know, make things right with this person, even if they don't like react negatively to you. Is that like what you were saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I guess you have to assess your own actions without knowing. I mean, because I think the difference between what I'm saying and Tamara's saying is that it's not that something's going to happen to you later because the guy's angry. It's just you have to consider that you've angered a person.
Yeah. No, so the difference with Tamara's idea is not that you need to take precaution against delayed expressions of anger, but that you need to recognize now that you angered them and fix things. Yeah. Okay, good. That's a good application. Okay. Moshe.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of this is a chiddush now after
a lot of people said stuff, but that's fine.
Yeah. So this would be like someone that's like a third party that's like dealing with like each of these people, and instead Tamara was kind of talking about in like a direction of like, oh, be wary of a room because like it's like less suspecting. But to me, I was kind of reading it like you should base on the way you like deal with people. You should base it on their personality, and rather than like the actual expression of what they're doing.
Right.
Like, so don't think that like the expression of what their problem is ultimately the thing that you should be dealing with. Really, the problems that they're having like internally are like what you should be dealing with. So just because like, the Arum is like, okay, he's like hiding it, and I'm kind of saying this now. I'm realizing it's like completely clashing with what you said before.
No, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
But like the Arum, okay, just because he's hiding it, like you might think, oh, so that's like intrinsically something's different about how he's feeling. But like, no, in reality, he still has the same problems just based on who he is.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
He's
saying.
able to deal with it differently.
Okay.
And you still have to like, talk to him in a certain way for him to like deal with that and solve the problems for him.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. That's a good idea, because that is the opposite in implication, but it is based on what we're saying. Okay, so in other words, just because different people react in their anger differently doesn't mean that you treat them completely differently. There is still the same underlying phenomenon of anger that you need to deal with. So I'll give you an example of this, right? It's like, let's say like this person, you do something and this person blows up, and then this other person does something who he knows in a room, and like they're calm about it. So you might mistakenly think, oh, well, this person is clearly like over their anger, and like I don't need to like, like we're cool, but no, anger is anger, and like the fact that they're able to control their expression of it doesn't mean that doesn't like make you putter from like dealing with the fact that you anger them and they're covering it up, and you have to like address that anger in the same way that you would with an avil. Is that like a good example of what you're saying, Moshe?
Yeah, like the consequences of it, the anger are still there. It's just a difference in expression.
Okay, that's a good idea. I like that. Of the anger are still there, even though the expression is different. Okay, good. I like that. That ended up being a different idea. Okay, Benji, nice to have you.
Yeah. So I think it's similar to what Moshe is saying, but in terms of the avil, you'll know on that. I think in terms of judging the person. So if something happens that would be angering or upsetting, then the avil, you'll know on that day what type of person he is, because you'll see his anger immediately. But the arum, you won't know immediately, so you shouldn't automatically think that he's a tzaddik because, oh, this guy doesn't get angry. Right. But in terms of judging the person himself, you shouldn't say, oh, this guy is a tzaddik because he didn't react. But know that there are cunning people, and you won't necessarily know the content of the character today. Yeah, it's funny. I'm just smiling because now we've talked about these two personalities long enough that I can like bring up an old definition. That Rabbi Moskowitz's definition of avil is someone who looks at things superficially. And just hearing Benji talk about this is, if you make the mistake and think that the arum is a tzaddik, you're really the avil. Like if you look at the fact that he's not reacting and you think that, oh, this guy like didn't get angry, so then that's how an avil is going to look at things. That you have to look beneath the surface. Okay, that's good. Yeah, Ariel.
Okay, I might have a derech nistar approach.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
But I'm gonna need a friend.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, should I finish until you should I wait until you finish?
Sure, yeah. Don't think the room is a tzaddik just because he seemingly reacts to the anger provocation like one. That was the takeaway. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Ariel.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the second half because I'm more confident in the second half.
Okay.
Maybe you could say that it's referring to your Yetzer Hara.
Okay.
Where it can get the best of you. And there are times when it gets the best of you, you can, be like, all right, screw it. I'm going all the way. And, I don't necessarily think about the, the consequences of that. And I just get so, I guess I can get angry about the fact that I slipped up, and that anger will cloud my judgment in, being able to rectify that concern, that issue.
Yeah.
Versus, that's how I'm starting off. And and when the arum covers his disgrace, maybe that just means that, he is able to, I guess, be more, he'll analyze his internal behaviors, and he will, see the source of it, and he will fix it. And in that sense, he's like covering his disgrace versus like letting it out in the open.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going in a different direction. Wait, you started off explaining the second half and then you went back to the second half.
Well, I might have explained the first half.
Okay, so start again because I was trying to explain it using the words. Okay, just to help me follow what you're saying.
Okay, fine. Okay, so
in Hebrew or English, I don't care. Okay,
the anger of an avil will be made known on that day, meaning that a guy slips up.
Yeah.
He gets angry that he slips up.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's his yetzer hara or whatever, something internally, he slipped up internally, and because he slipped up, you can have two different types of people. One person will just okay, I slipped up, I might as well just continue, versus analyzing the source of his mess up or slip up or whatever.
Okay, how is that? It will be made known on that day.
It will be made known, meaning like it's going to expose him. Meaning if he acts on it further, he'll expose himself.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and help. I'll give you your friend. Okay, which is Sadyagon, because anger doesn't make any sense in what you're saying, according to my understanding. But if you're saying that the foolishness of the avil will be made known on that day, which is how Sadyagon wanted to translate it, then that fits into what you're saying.
Oh, that's a very good friend.
Yeah.
Okay. So the second half of the pasuk just means that he'll able to cover it up, meaning like he covers it up by actually going to the source and stopping it immediately. Like he'll covering up the disgrace means like he won't do it. He won't continue into it.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you another friend if we modify your idea. Okay. The other friend
just go for it.
The other friend is the Talmud Bavli. Okay.
I like those friends.
Yeah. Okay. So I wrote this article called "How to Deal with an Uncontrollable Yetzer," and it quotes this very difficult Gemara in Chagiga. Oh, sorry, Kiddushin 40a. Okay, I'm gonna read the whole thing just so we don't. This is a very dangerous Gemara. Okay. So 40b Kiddushin says, Rabbi Eli Hazakin says, if a person sees that his Yetzer is overpowering him, he should go to a place where they don't recognize him, put on black clothes and cover himself in black, and do what his heart desires, and not cause a chilul shem shemaim before Hesia, not cause a desecration of God's name in public. Okay. The Gemara asks, is this true? Wasn't it taught in a brisa? If a person does not have mercy on the glory of his creator, he'd be better off not being born. We did this earlier in the Machshava lab with the rainbow shear, right? Yeah. To whom does this refer? Rabbah says to a person who stares at a rainbow. Rav Yosef says to a person who transgresses in private. Okay, so that's a contradiction. According to Rav Yosef, that's a contradiction with the Gemara in Kiddushin, because the Kiddushin saying, go do what your heart desires in secret, as if that's better. And Rav Yosef is saying, no, transgressing in private is worse. So the Gemara says, this is not a contradiction. The brisa refers to a situation in which it is possible for him to control his Yetzer, but Rabbi Eli's statement refers to a situation in which it is not possible to control his Yetzer. Okay, so you have a whole machlokus about whether this is actually advocating that you do an avera or not. So, for example, Rבינו Hananel, who's cited in Tosfos, says, God forbid that Eli Hazakin would permit a person to commit an avera. Rather, this is what he's saying: he should put on black clothes and go to another place. Since the wearing of black clothes and lodging in different locations will break his heart, he will not come to transgress. And from that moment on, he can do what his heart desires. For at that moment, his Yetzer will certainly not overpower him. Okay. So in other words, he's saying that if you go through this and start putting on this black clothes and traveling, booking a ticket to like Antarctica or whatever, that's going to change your mind. And then you could do what your heart desires because you won't do averos. But then our Rבינו Hananel is different. Our Rבינו Hananel says, hold on a second. No. Where is our? Oh yeah, so Rashi. Oh no, Bali Tosfos. Yeah, Bali Tosfos say that no, you should, the Gemara is saying do what his heart desires completely, which implies that it is better for a person to carry out his desires in private than in public, not like Rבינו Hananel. Okay, and that I think is shot. Okay. And Rashi also similarly says he should don black clothes so that he doesn't view himself with dignity. Perhaps this will cause his heart to become softened. Furthermore, if he does sin, people won't pay attention to him since he will not appear distinguished in their eyes. Therefore, he should wear black. Okay, so what I thought Ariel was going to say is like this. Okay, let's go with Sadyagon's translation of an avil will make known his foolishness on that day. Okay, so that's a situation where you were overcome with your Yetzer Hara, and and you just do what your heart desires, and you're like, screw it, and like you just do whatever avera there is, okay? But the Gemara is saying no. Even when you know that your yetzer is going to overpower you, you still have to know whether you can control it or not, okay? So if you can control it, then you control it. And if you can't control it, you still have to control it enough to do damage control, which is you go to a place where no one recognizes you and you do an avera and not cause a chil shemayim, strange shemayim. That is kosei kalon arum, is that if you're cunning, you will conceal the expression of foolishness that you do and make sure that it doesn't get all over the front page, and what that's going to do is, I mean, the Gemara is dealing with like chil shemayim, which I don't know if I don't know what the limits of Mishlei's derech nistar is, but like, look, if you're going to do an avera, then do it in a way where you're not going to be seen and it's not going to cause any additional damage, So I think this is good advice for someone who is overpowered with yetzer hara.
Yeah, it's also interesting. It's funny you said you said it's not going to get on the front page news. Maybe I wonder if that's like the reveal after this with one of the many ideas we said tonight about where the Avil is expressing his anger to everyone. Right. It's kind of making it. He's publicizing it.
Right. He wants to be validated. Right.
He wants to be validated, and like by you just openly doing it, it's kind of like subconsciously validating your. I don't know. Right.
Yeah. No. I do think that it caters to that. In other words, the very notion, like the Avil, once the Avil is doing an avera, he wants to be like proud about it, because that is what we call a reaction formation, where like you feel guilty about it, and so you want to like drown it out with this no, like this is who I am, or like this is I'm living my truth, like all these like expressions where you're justifying it. And the Arum realizes, okay, look, I'm doing an avera, but like there is an objective reality, and like I'm in the groups of my emotion, but I can at least like control myself and not do this in public, Okay. Wow. So these are good ideas. Let's now go to some Mefarshim here, okay? And I do want to do one of the derech nistars, okay? But let's start with the Rבינו Yona, who is, I think, the one that I really liked. He says, Evil biyom yivada kaso, be'etzem hayom, on that very day, in the middle of the day, shiachisuhu, or sorry, on that very day that they anger him, b'dvarav, with, b'dvarav, I think. You know what? I always have to do this. Let me get my good Rבינו Yona. Okay, so Rבינו Yona, this is 12:16. Rבינו Yona says, the etzem hayom shiachisu b'dvarav, on that very day when they anger him with his words, yivada kaso, he will make known his anger. Ki yomar l'rabim, he'll say to the masses, ha'ola al rucho b'inyan hanakama mechavero. He'll say in public the way that he intends to take revenge on his enemy. Okay, he'll just like blabber about it. V'yagid es kol libo, he'll tell his whole heart's desires. V'yodia es asher yesh nafsho la'asos olel, and he'll make known what he's plotting in his heart to do. V'hine b'shtayim yivar v'yichsal. So he's foolish in two ways. Kihu modia es asher hikluhu acherim uvizu. First of all, he's making known how people insulted him and degraded him. Okay, so he's like magnifying umagale klono lasher lo yiduhu. He's making known his disgrace to people who didn't know about it before. Okay, right? Like he's spreading whatever it was that he got insulted by. He's now making it known to many, many more people. Okay, but Shenis, and the second thing, kiyachsof sodo, he's exposing his own secret. And his friend is now going to know that he's angry and he's going to take revenge, and his friend will guard against him. Okay, like it says, plans are thwarted without secret, or plans can be thwarted when there's no secret, right? In other words, if he lets out a secret, it'll thwart the plans. Needless to say, certainly the Arum will not reveal his anger, and he will conceal the secret in his heart. But he'll also conceal the insults that they said to him. Okay, so that's like a very, very pshat idea, but it's a good one, right? Is that this Avil is upset that this guy insulted him? Like, how dare this guy say this thing about me, and I'm going to get him back. And he's shooting himself in both feet, because he's amplifying the insult that the guy did to him. Now everyone knows about this, and he's also preventing himself from taking revenge. And the Arum is not on the level to get over revenge, but he is not going to spoil his chances about doing that, and he's not going to like amplify his insult. Okay, so I think that's a good straightforward shot idea. Let's see. Meiri has a little bit of a more tame idea, but then he does derech nistar. So let's read the whole thing. Nosein adam das. It's giving a person advice. Sheyachase klono, that he conceal his shame. V'lo yifarsim cherpaso in kilaluhu or cherfuhu adam. And he should not publicize his disgrace or the curse when people shame him. By the way, look at what both the Rבינו, Yona, and the Meiri are doing. They're saying that the disgrace here is coming from an insult, and that is the thing that's angering the Avil. Right, they're talking here about it wasn't just like a failure or something that angered people like we were assuming. It's someone disgraces him, and he's going to say like, "How could you say this about me?" You know, I want to think of an example. There's got to be examples of this where people got insulted and they broadcast their insult. I mean, I'll bet Donald Trump has done this a lot.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Oh, you do it all the time. Okay.
Yeah. No, well, not all the time, but I feel like we have done it in the past. I mean, like, if we, if someone angers us, we just broadcast it.
Yeah, I want a specific example, though. So I'm saying, I think that many times, I don't have proof of this, but I feel like I could just look through, the Twitter archives, is that when one of Donald Trump's enemies, like, insulted him, he would retweet it in order to respond to it, and like just by drawing attention to it with all of his Twitter followers, like it is just making it into a conversation that more people are going to look at and like look down on him about, like if he just was Mavir Amidosa, if he just like let it go, then people wouldn't look at him that way, and by behaving in such a childish way, like he's drawing more attention, he's highlighting more disgrace, Okay. That was the first part of the Meiri. Then he says, what gain does he get from publicizing his disgrace? Now we know what gain he thinks he's getting. He's trying to get people to validate his feeling of being in the wrong, but in the meantime, he's causing himself more insult. So bayom, he does not read as immediately, he means publicly. So he says the Arum is going to conceal his anger until the proper time. Okay, when maybe he'll get revenge. Okay, then he says some say that on the day means on that same day, meaning immediately. And he'll make known his anger immediately without any deliberation. Okay, fine. Now here's his derech nistar. Okay, this is a very interesting one. Derech nistar ha'evil. If you get some sort of mevucha, like more nevuchim, like some sort of like confusion in deep areas of knowledge, yodia lachol mevuchasom miyad, he will immediately broadcast his confusion. Okay, this parsim kolono, and he will publicize his shame. Viyavi atzmo lidei chashad harisa ukfira, and he'll bring people to suspect him of violating halacha or denying fundamentals of Judaism. Okay, so I think we've seen people do this also. Look, we are, you should always ask your questions, and you should always if you have like doubts about Torah, you should always ask them. However, there is a time and a place and a way to do this. And let's say and I've seen this as well. There are people, let's say, who have doubts about Torah Misinai, people who have doubts about Torah Shabbal Peh, these questions should be asked, and they should be they should be discussed. But what I've seen people do is they broadcast them, and they make I don't really know if Torah's Minishmaim, I don't really know if Torah Shabbal Peh is true. So what that does is on a social level, so then it might make people think that they are a kofar, or that they're going off the derech, or that they're going to be should we count this person for a minion or not? And I'm not saying whether those people are right to have these thoughts. Mishlei doesn't care if you're right. Mishlei cares about what the consequences are. And there are consequences of broadcasting your doubts about the Ikarim. There just are consequences. And again, I'm not saying that it's bad to have doubts. I'm saying to broadcast them, that there are ramifications. But here's the worst result. Again, I've seen this happen in high schools more than in yeshivas. is there will be the kid who asks good questions, okay? And he'll ask them in a way that's not appropriate. Let's say he'll ask them in the middle of his Gemara class, and he'll like ask the Gemara Rebbe, like, oh, how do you know that the Gemara is true? Now that's a good question, but you don't ask in the middle of the Gemara class. So what's going to happen? The Rebbe is going to probably do educational malpractice, which he's going to call the kid a kofar, okay, which the Rebbe shouldn't do. But what's going to happen? The kid is then, because he took a public stance on this, is going to be forced to dig in his heels and to embrace beliefs that he doesn't actually believe. These are just doubts, I've told high school kids this before. There are a lot of high school kids who think that they have questions. They think they have positions when they really just have questions. And it's good that they have questions, and then what'll happen is that, again, I've seen this happen a lot, is that they will, because they've been forced to take a public stance, then if they unless they're very intellectually honest, which is very rare, they will be forced to cling to those positions. And let's say like that kid who's taken the class who's taken the role as the class kofar, he's not going to actually like be intellectually honest in his investigation, because that's going to force him to back down and admit that other people are right, or that he should be religious, So there are all these consequences that come from publicizing your questions and your even your breaches in halacha in the wrong way. I'm going to finish reading the Meiri, and then I'll take questions and examples. Arum, but the clever person, kishiyakrehu safek, when a doubt occurs to him, the tischadish lo mabucha, and he comes up with he has a confusion. Yichase klona, he will conceal his shame. V'yisbonin b'davar ma'at, and contemplate the matter slowly. Okay, which implies that the avil is doing it quickly, like just jumping to the conclusions, like, well, maybe Torah's not Mishmayim. Okay. Ad ye'are alav ruach mimrom, until he's quoting a pasuk from Yeshayahu, which I'm not familiar with the context, until a spirit is poured down onto him from on high. V'yasik orchos chaim, and he attains the ways of life. Okay, I assume that means until he finds the truth. Okay, yeah, Ariel.
Yeah. So in the Meiri's derech nistar, what I mean, because someone's confused, what about that confusion makes someone want to publicize it or talk about it?
Okay, good question. What do you guys think? What when you have this type of confusion in the Ikarim or in Torah, what would make him want to publicize it?
I mean, personally, like whenever I am like going through a sugya, or I'm, I have like some questions, like I like to, ask many people so I can get many different.
Right. So that is a rational approach, but that's also not in an area that's going to cause you to be branded.
But it's stemming, but that's stemming from wanting to put myself in a vulnerable state so I can get more information. So I'm just wondering if that is what the avil is also doing in some way.
I mean, it's possible, but that doesn't mean that you should look, if we're dealing with an avil, he is going to be thinking about things on a short term, so that he might just not be thinking about this. But I do think that there's a motive for doing it. That's what I'm trying to get to. Yeah, Isaiah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right motive, but like maybe a person, when they have a question like that, like everyone else seems to not have this question or be believing in whatever they have a question about. So maybe they would feel like just like they have to understand what everyone else understands. Does that make sense?
Okay, I mean, you guys are giving very good Dan Lekav's reasons for why an avil would do this rationally. If he's a chacham, so then maybe that's the reason. But this is an avil we're talking about. Okay, so I want to understand what is the emotional motive for him to do this. Yeah, Ariel?
I mean, all right. I mean, the only reason why someone would do this is look, like a guy like this, if to some extent he has gone through the area, and like maybe this is a way of him kind of like expressing, oh, I've gone through this area and this is my conclusion, and like this is my ego talking and whatever.
Okay, yeah. So one explanation is what Ariel is saying, which we know from Mishlei. Okay, 10:2, no, 11. Oh no, sorry, 18:2. Lo yachputz ksil betuna ki im bihis galos libo. So the fool, I know this is a different kind of fool. The fool does not desire understanding, but just in revealing his own mind. Okay, right? that the Avil thinks that he stumbled upon like this great question that shows how smart he is, and he wants to show off how smart he is by the fact that he can question this, so that is one motive that he has. Okay, and especially if the people around him can't answer it, then he wants to show, oh look, even the adults and the rabbis and the people who think that they know don't really know. So that's one motive. Yeah, Arya.
Yeah, actually, I'll let Yosef go.
Yosef.
Yeah, I think also like with people who are like very self-centered and like who aren't really like super self-aware, like they're a little bit intrigued with themselves a little bit. Like
right.
Like in a certain my dad has like a good standard, like if someone's an interesting person or not, which is that if they tell a story that wouldn't be interesting if it wasn't about them, right, then they're a boring person, right? Because they really are just intrigued with themselves and not the actual story or anyone else's regard for it, right? So there is a certain like yeah, it's really smart, but like it's a certain like being intrigued with the self that that they would want other people to know, and they're not able to realize the ramifications of that, and to let that guide their decision making shows that they're an Avil.
Okay, right. That's good. That's a good point also, right? And this is something that makes them unique if they're having this like thought. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, I think this is similar to what Yosef is saying. Just maybe say it a little differently. I mean, this is an Avil we're talking about, and like by nature, in his psychology, this is just what he's going to be doing because he doesn't know. He probably doesn't know how to. He probably can't control it. So
right, but that doesn't answer it. That doesn't answer why he does it. That answers why he can't stop it.
Oh,
yeah, Rivki.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of in the similar like situation as you were, or someone, I don't remember who was saying about like wanting to be known as like smart or whatever.
Right.
I think also sometimes people just want to be known as like the questioner, or like someone that's, not going with the grain of things. And if everyone else is just like, automatically accepting what's being said or being spoken about, I feel like it's always a person that's like, well, actually.
Yeah, right. And by the way, just to point out, this reminded me of a story which is from, I think it's about Rav Chaim, that like they were saying how, there's no such thing as a bad midah. And someone said, like, what about apicorsis? And Rav Chaim said, yeah, you should be an apicorus when your Rebbe says something. You should attack him like an apicorus and like not accept it just based on his authority. Like there being a questioner is a lot of these things we're saying can be harnessed into good lolishmas. It's just that the Meiri is warning us about the consequences. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, Noah.
I think we all have a lot of investment in preserving our own emotional comfort, and learning can be very difficult. And very often the pashat is frankly like atrocious, and to like learn something, you might say like, okay, like Ben Sora Mora, like that's awful, like you're going to stone a kid to death, what for? And that might be like 30-40 hours of learning to actually understand like what is this. And you can't expect someone to like give you a good answer on one foot, and people will take that as I can just whole Torah is bad, throw it out.
Yeah, that's like the the Rambam's three groups. There are the people about how people relate to the words of Chazal. There's the people who take everything at face value and literally, and then they praise Chazal for it, even though it involves like absurd, irrational things. And then there are the people like Noah was just describing who like take this superficial value, take the Torah and Chazal at face value, and then just degrade and say, oh, these people are stupid, this system is stupid, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's people who actually like take their time and understand. And yeah, it takes work to like, it takes a certain amount of like, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but like, it's hard to let go of that comfort zone and realize, okay, maybe I need to actually like put some thought into this and like delve, not just like take things at surface value. Yeah, Benji?
Yeah, maybe it's like uncomfortable for them to have the question either on its own or just for them to be the only person to have a question.
Yeah.
So they're looking for other people to agree with them or to, I guess, like repeat what they're saying with them.
Yeah.
So they don't feel like they're the only one.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. The answer, and I'm not saying that there's only one answer to this, but that's what I think that's what I've observed the most is that it's the need for security. Okay, is that it is a very scary thing, and they're not going to admit it, but it's a very scary thing to differ from your peer group, or from your culture, or your society. So people have to compensate for it by either converting everyone else or making everyone else into an enemy, and then that allows them to like just take security in their own beliefs and like dismiss the enemies and then or bring proofs to themselves because everyone is agreeing with me, So the point of this discussion is just to show that there are many motives which could lead the Avil to making this mistake. And then Ariel's right. He's not going to control himself because he lacks self-control. But in the meantime, there are ramifications to this. And what I was saying also is that the ramifications are going to oftentimes prevent him from being able to actually find answers. That if there is a part of him that actually is doing this because he's looking for truth, he's going to screw up his chances because he's going to get again, many times it's not even his fault. Like there are so many kids who got thrown out of their schools, for asking like really, really good questions because the schools can't handle it. And that's horrible on the school's part. But like, there are these consequences, and like, you have to be aware of that. So just to summarize here, the Meiri's derech nistar, and then I think we'll stop for tonight, is that if you have a question or a doubt on a deep matter, don't mind thoughtlessly broadcast it to everyone, or else you might become subject to consequences of people branding you as a kofar or a, he uses this term harisa, which is like breaking. I think that means first like halachic violations. We talk about kfira and a kofar. We don't talk about a hores, but I guess that's the term used. And, no, with a hey. We're gonna read that in the Kriyas Torah of Shavuos, right? Al Yalu El Hashem. No, whatever. People are trying to break through to see Hashem. All right. Anyway, brings a kofar or hores. Not horses. We changed it. Hores, which will which will be bad for you and for your doubts. Okay. Rather be like an arum and think about your question deliberately and consult people strategically until you get your questions answered. Yeah. And, even in terms of like, what do you call? Like, let's say, okay, let's take this extreme thing. Let's say you do have something that people would consider kfira and it's a conclusion, right? That does not mean you should just like broadcast it. Like not everyone, like, I'll give you an example that's not kfira, but let's say like, again, as a high school teacher, there are certain ideas that like ninth graders are not ready for, and they're going to be operating in a totally false way, but I can't just break down their world by showing them this idea when it's premature, so even if you have an idea that like would actually be considered, kfira, then don't go and broadcast it in every situation, because you'll have to get those, those ramifications are going to come back and bite you. And look, in certain areas, like you have to not care about what people think, like if you know that God is not physical and everyone thinks God is physical, then you have to say the truth, even if people hate you. But like, if it's not one of the ikarim, like, you have to be judicious in what you say. Okay. So let's summarize what we have here. It's going to be hard for me to differentiate between all the subtly different ideas, but I'm going to try. Okay. So, so Isaiah's idea was that it's for the individual himself. And there are two ways to get angry. You really shouldn't get angry at all. But if you are going to get angry, you could blow up like an avil and cause all the damage from the anger. And there's many pasukim that talk about the damage of getting angry. Or you can conceal it like an arum to at least do the damage control. And I think Rביnu Yona's idea complemented that, which is that if you get insulted because of something that someone did to insult you or said something to insult you, you're just going to be drawing more attention to it by blabbing about it. And by getting angry, you're going to make yourself seem more infantile and more worthy of derision. And if you want to take revenge, you're going to mess up your chances for revenge because now this guy knows that you're angry, So at least at least deal with your anger in an intelligent way. And then later on in your development, you can do the pasukim where you get over anger. Okay. Tamar's idea and Akiva's idea have to do with you as the bystander, which is, and Moshe's idea also, but I'll go with these two first, which is that don't think that everyone acts in the same way when they get angry. So don't think that, this person blew up, so he's angry, but this person didn't blow up, so they're not angry at all, But no, it could be that person is an arum and they're concealing their anger, but you have to take precautions to mend the relationship. Or like Akiva's saying, you have to like preemptively realize if I said something that might be upsetting, I have to I'll give you an example of this. I mean, there are definitely times when people will say stuff that is unintentionally racist, and they know that I'm Chinese, and they'll make some sort of comment. And I always have to wonder, are they just totally not thinking about the fact that they said this? And it might upset me. And usually the funny thing is usually it doesn't, but usually it's the insensitivity. It's the fact that they said something that was insulting in speech and did not have a sensitivity to apologize for it. That's usually the insulting thing, but I wonder if I don't react and they see, oh, he didn't react, so he must not be insulted, if they're making that sort of mistake, and that is a thing that I've found that when I try, if I'm in a situation like that, I do try to ask the person afterwards and apologize and say I said something and I'm not sure if you're upset about it, but I just wanted to say that I'm sorry in case I upset you. So that was Tamar's and Akiva's idea, and then Moshe's idea was in some ways the opposite. I think both ideas are true, but Moshe's idea was that anger is anger, and whether you deal with it by punching out a window, or whether you deal with it by furiously, the person deals with it by furiously knitting, if you anger them, or if this person is angry, you have to treat their anger as being in them and something that is a force to be to be dealt with, and not just or like Benji said, not just say that this person is a tzaddik because he didn't react angrily. The thing that all these ideas have in common is you can't judge the person's anger solely based on how they react. That's the main takeaway if it's for the bystander. Okay. Yosef said that this is dealing with failure, and the avil is just going to be an infantile infant, and just vent his anger and not even deal with the problem. He's just going to be mad at reality. And the arum might not be able to get over it, but he'll at least take steps to do damage control, to try to minimize the consequences. And that shows a certain objective relationship with the world. And that could be true also in terms of with Alex, in terms of the interpersonal relationships. People do this all the time when they're in a relationship and they anger the other person, that they're so blinded by their own emotions that they won't actually try to step out and step into the other person's shoes. They'll just be focused on their own venting, Ayala said that added that the reason why the avil has this is because he has a victim mentality, which we said that anger really comes from the feeling that I can't believe that reality didn't go in line with my desires. And he's so consumed with that he is just withdrawn into his own emotions, and he can't even deal with things objectively. But the arum will at least be able to say, okay, I'm having this reaction and I'm upset about it, but I can deal with the fact that I'm reacting this way and control myself. And Rifki mentioned that the arum recognizes it's a perfection, and that's why the second half of the pasuk doesn't use the word anger, it calls it disgrace. And the Rבינו Yona had the idea, we said the Rבינו Yona, and the Meiri had the idea on if you have a suffix in the ikarim or in areas that are deep, don't go blabbing it. We listed a bunch of reasons why you might be tempted to. Either you want to look smart, or you want to deal with the cognitive dissonance, or you want the security, or you want to be the questioner, or you want to antagonize, whatever this is. But that's just going to make things worse for you because of the consequences. And rather, you should be like an arum, and you should conceal it and deal with it on a more deliberate and not in your face type way, and hopefully get your answers. And if you don't get your answers, you'll at least avoid the consequences of being branded a kofar or hores. Okay.
I guess my darkness didn't make the cut.
Oh, I kind of forgot about your nistar.
Don't worry about it.
No, I remember. Yeah, that was the Ariel's derech nistar. Yeah, I forgot to write it down. That's why.
And friends.
Yeah, Ariel and friends. Ariel's derech nistar was if you are overcome by your yetzer hara, don't be public about it and risk ruining your reputation and causing damage to the system. Rather, conceal it, be clever and cunning, be cunning and conceal it. Even if you are giving in. You know, like I had a actually there are two rabbis when I was in high school years, two rabbis who were smokers. And I remember not knowing for years that they smoked because they would always do it in a hidden way, you know, like, and it was only like one time when like I spotted one, you know, and they did that, I think probably because like there were people who would like, you know, one of them was a high school rabbi and like people would, you know, if the kids found out that he was smoking, like that's like being a bad role model. So like he would go far away and like smoke and then, you know, and then come back. So like that's an example of that. Yeah, Benji?
I was just wondering for the Meiri.
Yeah.
Why would he be a cunning person, not a chacham?
Okay, so you know it's funny. We didn't actually get to the definition of an arum. I'll tell you my definition because I said it in the Sunday shiur. So arum in Mishlei is often contrasted with pesi. Pesi is someone who is mispate b'yitzro, who's seduced by his own emotions. We had pesi a couple of we had pesi and arum a couple weeks ago. Wait, no, that was in the podcast that I did that's coming out next week. Sorry, that was a couple weeks ago, but it wasn't with you guys. Pesi is someone who's seduced by his own emotions. I define arum as someone who can see through the seductive power of the emotions. And that's why it is a perfection, but also a source of evil. That if you can see through the deceptive power of the emotions, then that will allow you to not be blinded by your own emotions, which will take you on the path to becoming a chacham. But if you are seeing through the deceptive power of the emotions, that will allow you to manipulate other people's emotions and make them do what you want. That's like the nachash. And so I think that in the Meiri's derech nistar, then the question is, why is it an arum, not a chacham? Does this fit? I'm going to try and think. I think that if this guy has a question, it's very easy if you have a real question. We are assuming, by the way, this might be an avil, but he does have a real question. If he has a real question or problem with Judaism, it is very hard for him to sometimes separate the emotional component from the actual intellectual content of the question. And his blindness to that is going to be what allows him to make this mistake of just like asking the question, not realizing how much people are going to be upset and disturbed by this, you know, and how that's going to like affect the way that they relate to him. But the arum will realize like, oh, people are very emotionally disturbed when you question this, you know, and he'll be guarding against that. So like the fact that he is guarding against the consequences of emotionally perturbing people about their religious beliefs, that shows like a quality of orma.
So what would the chacham do?
What would the chacham do? I mean, I think in this sense, the arum and the chacham are both thinking about the consequences, but arum is just more specific because it's showing he's thinking about the consequences of people's emotional reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question, though. That clarified it, Benji. Okay. Quick addressing of Ayala's question. We can end here, but Ayala's question is, what would you do to help a person who is in a position of being like an avil or an arum like this, of like in the grips of their anger? Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think that there's two fronts that you can work on. One is just the consequences of acting in anger, you know, and like if you do mishlei enough, you start to realize that like that when you are angry, you do crazy things that can have like irreparable effects, you know. And I think this first step of becoming an arum, where you can have the anger and just not act on it, I think that is within most people's reach, and from there, then you could start to hold that at arm's length and deal with it. But then there's a lot of internal work that needs to be done as well, that I don't know if all of it can be done through Mishlei, of like understanding your own psychology and like where the anger comes from. And I don't know how much you can help a person do that. I guess if it's a really good friend, you could talk about these things and do like a debriefing, because one of the, like Rabbi Chait has said, one of the only benefits of hate is immediately after the hate is a good opportunity for tshuva. Like you can see the consequences and see how deluded you were and how crazy you were. So if someone like blows up and is very angry, they're going to want to forget that it ever happened. And if you're a good friend, maybe you can like offer to provide insight in doing like a debriefing and saying like, what are some takeaways for next time? What will, can we come up with an action plan for what you're going to do next time when you're, when you're angry? Like I was just recalling this today that I think it was Abraham Lincoln had the practice that he would, when he was angry with someone, he would write a letter to them, and then he would take it and put it into a drawer, and then he would write a second letter, and he would never send the first letter. So he'd like get it all out of his system, and then, but there are techniques even in Mishlei itself for dealing with anger. So I think that our pasuk is not answering it, but just generally speaking, like there's Mishlei strategies and there's like, psychological strategies. And I think like you need to employ both.
You're talking about as a receiver, meaning the receiving end? Or
No, I was just asking like as someone who like, I think as a friend, right? You weren't saying if they're angry at you. Yeah.
So it sounds like from hearing about Rabbi Moskowitz that he was really good at helping people like recognize or like kind of expand their thought and like see what they weren't seeing. I feel like that sounds to me like it could be an approach here. I don't know like how exactly someone would do that or like how to implement that practically.
Yeah.
I do have an example
that
happened to me personally. I wasn't angry. Well, no, actually I was frustrated.
Are you making known your shame right now?
No,
and is this story only interesting because it happened to you? No, go ahead.
Maybe, I don't know. But Zach, it's funny. I was speaking about it with Zach, and he showed me different scenarios that he basically helped me rationalize the situation or from a different perspective versus from an observer's perspective versus as someone being within the story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's actually a plausible solution.
Uh-huh.
So we confirmed the theory, and it turned out to be exactly on point to what what that rational perspective was versus just being so invested and emotionally attached to it and angry about it, which would have ruined this entire whatever it was, But whatever, he just he helped me kind of like expand, as Ayala put it, expand the that framework, whatever.
Good. That is having a friend can help you to frame the perspective, frame the situation objectively, not through your own distorted lens. Hold on, there was an episode of the Stoke Jew podcast that I did where there was a method. I know that sounds very vague. There's a method of dealing with anger that I spoke about, and I don't even remember when it was.
Like the 4 steps.
Yeah, the 4 steps. Yeah. Here, let me share the screen. I'm looking through the episode titles now.
It's like a few months ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought also. So I know it was this year, and I also I didn't think it was super far away. Was it Don Lekoff's Chus? Maybe it was this. 3 questions. No.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it?
Katie's writings. I remember that.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah, did I not put that in the sources? Oh, I put that here, but I didn't put it in the sources. Strange. Oh, because I just quoted So listen to this episode. Don Lekoff's Chus, a practical Stoic technique for judging someone favorably. That's where I wrote about it, and I guess I have to do. Okay, I'll do the book commercial, but it's in another room. I bought her book, but I haven't implemented it yet. But that was another good thing for the anger. I don't want to recap it here because I don't remember it fresh enough. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. So next week is fine. Yeah. Next week is fine, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the summer though.
Oh yeah. I should mention that here. I am going to send out a survey, but like, I was partially because I'm impatient and I want to finish Mishlei. I want to finish the whole middle of Mishlei as soon as I can. But also because I was inspired by Rabbi Moskowitz's just thinking about like all the great summer memories. I do want to give a Mishlei Shiur during the summer. So what we'll do is we'll figure out, I'll put out a survey, and it's gonna be hard to coordinate with everyone's timing because like Ayala's gonna be in Israel, I'm gonna be in Seattle, people will be in New York. We'll try to figure out a time that works for the most people, and my apologies to the others, but so just stay tuned for that. Yep. Okay. Oh yeah, Alex.
When you do that, would you mind just having the time zones of all the places?
Yes.
Like coordinated. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I will try to do that. Okay. All right.
Are you going to start a summer chat, or it's just going to be in your?
I'm going to send out a survey in my regular channels, and then when I find people who are interested, then I'm going to start a summer thing. Yeah.
Are you going to be in New York during the summer program?
Not likely. No.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing, though, is if you guys are there for the summer program, the summer program is only like 3 weeks or something like that, right?
Yeah,
so
like
if you guys wanted to find a time and set up like a Mishlei thing, then I'd be theoretically open for that if it worked out with my schedule.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.